Welcome back. The ANC's Electoral Committee will finally reveal who are the frontrunners for the party's top 6 positions today. The nominated individuals will battle it out at the party's national conference taking place next month. Former DA leader and one of the people who have seen the ANC through its various phases over the years is Tony Leon. He joins us via our video link this morning. Tony, great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. Reports suggest, and certainly if we look at the ANC's nomination list and the numbers there, that the only thing standing between President Cyril Ramaphosa and a second term is the Phala Phala report. How would that impact, do you reckon, the way that the DA campaigns for 2024?
Well, look, I think, speaking really as someone who led the opposition for many years, but not currently involved in the official opposition structures, there's a division in your brain between what you want as a citizen on the one hand and what you want as a politician on the other. As a citizen, I think all South Africans, whether in the opposition or government camps, would want effective governance, which we've had very little sign of under Cyril Ramaphosa. And therefore they would hope that whatever the outcome of the ANC elective conferences, that there might be more effective responsive government than there has been in the last few years, and particularly in the last few months. Obviously, the opposition in Parliament has been very vociferous in trying to get the detail on Phala Phala and get some consequence for it. Although, interestingly enough, the DA has not been leading the charge for Ramaphosa to be impeached, but I think is an interested party in the outcome of this quasi-judicial inquiry into Phala Phala. Look, if you're in the opposition, you basically want a weak governing party because that improves your chances. On the other hand, as I said, as a South African, you want effective government. So there's a bit of a conundrum there. But I think more materially, because there seems to be a wide consensus, at least in the opinion polls, that there's the very real prospect of the ANC not getting an outright majority at the next general election. It's going to be very consequential for the opposition as to which of the leadership candidates favors what combination of coalition partners should there be a coalition at national level after the 2024 election. And that, of course, we don't really know what the difference is, for example, between Cyril Ramaphosa on that issue and Zweli Mkhize. The inference is that Ramaphosa is a more moderate person and that Mkhize has some backing from the RET-KZN faction, and that if Ramaphosa prevails, well, there's a possibility that there could be some kind of alignment between the DA and the ANC after 2024, if the numbers from the electorate throws up that prospect. With Mkhize, it's less likely, I would think.
The question always is, whether the opposition is able to capitalize from the perceived weaknesses in the governing party, which arguably the DA has not been able to do with a series of own goals. That's something certainly that the DA needs to get in order to move away from campaigning around what the ANC is doing wrong, but rather to campaign around what the DA can provide for citizens.
I think that's right, Michelle, up to a point, but the very fact that we're having this conversation about the ANC's elective conference, like, watching a horse race and saying we're fascinated by who's going to win it, not looking at the conditions of the turf, if I could use a racing metaphor. The conditions of the turf, of the South African turf, are terrible at the moment. And obviously any opposition party's got to put forward a prospectus on how to improve it, how to keep the lights on, how to get the rails working again, how to fix our ports and infrastructure. That's pretty basic stuff. And presumably that's what they do. On the other hand, I thought it was very interesting. There was a letter from someone in the Sunday Times on Sunday who said, look, it's very simple. If you're a long-standing ANC supporter, you're not going to vote for an opposition party, but you'll either vote ANC or you'll stay away. And I think what some folk lose sight of is opposition parties don't necessarily need to win mass conversions from the ANC camp. They need to mobilize their own voters to go and vote, and they've got to hope that the dissatisfaction with the ANC leads to an ANC stay away, and then you get what they call a differential turnout, which is why, incidentally, in 2021, I think it was, in the last local government elections, the ANC did so badly in all the metros, except perhaps for Bloemfontein. So what I'm saying is that, I think you're right in theory. I think in practice, when it actually comes to ballot casting, there's some other considerations at play.
Right. So we're talking about the ANC's elective conference in December, possibly one of the most important political events, if not the most important political event for 2022. And then we're also building up to 2024 and the elections then. And the Democratic Alliance also has its elective conference in April of next year, building up to that. Weekend reports saying that there are plans afoot from some members in the Democratic Alliance to get rid of Helen Zille, the DA's current federal chair, because of a number of issues, but particularly her leadership style. What are some of the considerations for the Democratic Alliance, Tony? In your experience, what should be some of the considerations there, given how key that position is in the DA in the build-up to 2024?
Well, look, I've got to say, when I was leader of the DA, the identity of the leader, which was me, obviously, while I was there, and I attracted both support and a lot of criticism, was pretty fundamental. The identity and the performance of the chairperson of the federal executive was never in contestation. It was for a long time Jay himself. Obviously, Helen Zille is a much more visible personality, and she does attract both support and criticism. Look, I don't know if she's going to be opposed. I see John Steenhuisen launched his campaign in terms of racing. That seems to be a one-horse race, since there don't seem to be any declared runners at this stage for either position. It's the leader, actually. People, internally in a party, obviously, the person in charge of the organization matters. Externally, I think people do have an opinion on the party based on their leader. Now, I was looking at some polls recently, which were interesting in the sense that, going back to the ANC, Ramaphosa is certainly more popular than his party, which is always a critical thing for a political leader, but his own popularity, probably largely because of the unresolved Phala, or the unknown aspects of Phala, and the fact that we're in stage 5 load shedding, has taken an enormous dip and a hit. I think Steenhuisen, obviously, who's leader of a much smaller organization compared to the ANC, has not, in the last 2 years, suffered from a diminution in his popularity. But, whether that's going to impact on how the delegates determine their votes at the DA Congress, I simply don't know. But I would be surprised if he isn't re-elected. As regards Helen Zille, in the last time she was contested for her post, I think she got about 2/3 of the vote. So clearly inside the party, she has a lot of support. Obviously outside the party, in the broader public, because she's a big personality, opinions divide much more significantly. Do
you think that she wields much more of an influence in that position than James Self did when you were leader?
Well, I guess she does, for the very simple reason that, let me personalize this from him. If I went back into the DA, which I have no intention of doing, let me just reassure your viewers on this, because I've led the party for so many years, I led the party for 13 years, I think Helen led it for about 7 or 8 years, of course I would be hugely influential. James, who was really a center of excellence in the party, was more of a backroom operator. He wasn't really front and center of the political scene at the time, although he was very, very important and played a crucial role. So Helen's obviously in a very distinctive position because she's in the unusual place, a bit like, incidentally, Jacob Zuma, who was very interesting, and I don't think he's going to get too many nominations, has also put up his hand to become national chairperson of his party. In today's elective conference nominations, which I think will be less successful than Helen Zille's attempt to get re-elected. So I think any former leader of a party or head of a party who then goes back in a position just below the leadership is going to play an outsized role.
I must say your laugh there has left me, perhaps some of our viewers, confused as well. Do you want to give it a think and tell us again whether you're planning on a leadership position, a leadership comeback?
I'm absolutely not. If I was in an elected position, we wouldn't be having a nice conversation like this. I have to defend a whole lot of things and speak to the party talking points, which happily I don't have to do anymore.
All right, Tony Leon, thank you for taking us into your confidence. Former leader of the DA, and just talking to us there about how much the opposition should be watching the elective conference and the nominations process of the ANC. The ANC's Electoral Committee itself will reveal today who the front runners are for those top 6 positions.